What's up, duelists? Your boy's back, and I've got a brand new deck. Took it to a tournament, got second place. Powerful deck, undeniably powerful deck, and by undeniably powerful, I mean very deniably powerful. There were a lot of people denying this deck's power, and so I had to show it to them in this video. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you liked the video. You know what it is. Alright, let's just get right into it. This is a Welledad deck list that doesn't play zombies. There were some haters in the Discord saying, oh, you can't play this deck without zombies. And I'm like, oh yes, you absolutely can. And in fact, I'm planning a whole series on different ways of playing this deck without zombies, but that's going to be sometime in December, so stay tuned for that. Let's get right into the deck. This is a Welledad deck, so you got to play Dark Armed Dragon. Now, there's a lot of argument over which Dark Armed Dragon is the best looking Dark Armed Dragon, and I have to keep it 1,000 with you guys. Secret First from Phantom Darkness is the nicest looking Dark Armed Dragon. I don't think the Ultimate comes close. I actually don't think the Ghost comes close. I do like the Ghost rare, though. He's the main guy. One, Gore's the Emissary of Darkness. You know, I'm a fan of these star foil, shatter foil cards. Most of the deck is going to be star foil or shatter foil, so stay tuned. Get locked in for all the fucking star foil shenanigans. 2 Kaias. So upon reflection, I actually would have liked to play the full 3 Kaias. I think this card is very good in this deck. I think this card is very good in Edison format. It doesn't really need a lot of explanation. The card is a great way at chipping your opponent down, kind of breaking down their life total and their resources, and it's one of the best ways to just shut people out of the game. So not drawing it feels a lot worse than drawing it, and drawing multiples isn't even that bad. I have sacrificed my first Kaias for a second Kaias so many times in my life that I think it is worth playing the full 3 in this deck. Next up is a little bit of a Tomato Engine. Just a little bit of ways to get some darks in the grave. 2 Mystic Tomatoes. This card is pretty bad. I do side it out in a lot of matchups, especially when people are bringing in cards like Deck Devastation Virus or, you know, against Frogs, this card's pretty bad. But game 1, it's a nice way to fuel the darks for Dark Armed Dragon and to get your engine online. Now for the cards you can get off of Mystic Tomato, the first one is Spirit Reaper. The star foil of this is actually pretty rare. It's like a prize card or something. It's pretty sick. It's okay. I think it was my last card including. It did some work. It did some not so great work. You sided out against Black Wings. But it's okay against Frogs, which I think is this deck's hardest matchup game 1. So yeah, definitely want to have the Spirit Reaper. It's just a guy to search. 1 Sangan. This card's great. It searches everything, including the Mystic Tomato. So you can go Mystic Tomato, Sangan, search Mystic Tomato. Oh my god, Infinite Comp. No, I'm just kidding. That's pretty trash. But 1 Gale. This card's great. Halves attack. I actually really like Gale. I think he's super powerful in any deck. So yeah, pretty strong card. And then the last cards you can get off of Tomato are 1 Plague Spreader Zombie. This guy's pretty important. Just lets you make synchro plays with Dark Grepher and stuff. We'll get into in a second. And then triple Krebins. This is a Welledad deck, so you got to have the triple Starfoil Krebins. They look pretty good, actually. I'm a fan of the Starfoil. It's pretty affordable option, and it looks blinged out, in my opinion. The color of the stars actually looks cool on the green. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. My camera is kind of trash. I'm working on getting a new one. Don't worry, guys. But the color of the stars looks really cool on the green. So, yeah, big fan of that. And, of course, yeah, Necro Gardener. You can get this guy off of Tomato and Armageddon Knight. This kind of bridges us into the warrior part of the deck. There's like a little warrior package, but you can get these guys off Tomato. Most of the deck you can get off Tomato, and that's pretty much it. Again, like I said, I would have really liked a 3rd Kaias, and what I think I would have done is actually, maybe I would have cut one of these Tomato targets. Maybe I would have cut 1 Tomato itself, or I would have cut maybe Spirit Reaper, and I would have played a 3rd Kaias. I think that would have been much better for me in this tournament, but we'll get into that in the tournament matches, etc. The rest of the warrior package is pretty straightforward. It's 2 Malicious. You get to search this guy off of the Stratos, which you do play. That's pretty much it. That's all the heroes that you play. You just play Stratos, 2 Malicious. This card searches Malicious, and that's all you need to make your plays, because Dark Grepher allows you to basically convert Malicious even if you draw 2 of them. There's a moment in the tournament where I draw double Malicious and I don't have Grepher to convert, and that feels bad, but any deck playing Malicious is going to suffer the double Malicious draw at some point. So it happens, you know, happens to the best of us. No other heroes are necessary. For the rest of the monsters, there's only 3. There's 1 Morphing Jar. This card is obscene in this deck. There's a lot of ways to special summons and power spells and whatnot, so this card is very good. I think it's auto-include, in my opinion. 1 Cyber Dragon in the main. This card is very good too. Helps support the Caiuses, helps get you Black Rose plays with Krebins, which is really strong. You can even have a play where you special Sidra and then you E-Telly out Krebins and then you blow up the field without even using your normal summon, which is a very strong play. I do like the main deck Cyber Dragon in this deck. I think he comes up a lot. Helps you against Blackwings and Glads. And then one main deck Doom Caliber Knight. Now, if you guys are fans of this channel, you know I've played this deck before. And you know I've played this deck with 3 Doom Caliber Knights in the past. 3 Doom Cal, 3 Caius is usually the build I play. And let me tell you, I missed them. They were actually definitely cards I want to put back in the deck. I actually think 3 Doom Caliber Knight is really important for this deck. And the reason I think it's important for this deck is because some cards are really annoying to get through, like Shining Angel or like DD Warrior Leader, that sort of thing. Gores is really annoying for this deck. Battle Fader is especially annoying for this deck. So just having extra ways to push through that. And then on top of that, this card is fantastic against Glads. It beats down against Blackwings. It makes your opponent, I don't know, it makes their decks weaker. It breaks through their offense. It breaks through their openers. And then after that, you've softened up your opponent and you can put a Synchro Monster into play, and that's usually good enough to win the game. I also really like him against Frogs, even though a lot of people don't. You just kind of hold him against Frogs, and then when you're going for game, you normal summon him, and then you attack with your Synchro, and you attack with this guy at the same time, and then, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's also like some merits to playing him going first against Frogs to stop Substitoad, but that's pretty high risk because if they have Swap Frog, they can normal Swap Frog and then just bounce to hand, and then Doom Caliber will negate, and the Swap Frog actually won't be destroyed because of like some stupid bullshit ruling. So, yeah, that's pretty much, you know, he's not bad against Frogs when you're going for game, but it's definitely the worst matchup for him. For the spells, a lot of spells. So a lot of monsters, a lot of spells, 1 Brain Control, 1 Mind Control. These cards are incredibly powerful. There's actually a version I'm going to play later on that even plays more ways to steal monsters, like Mark of the Rose, that works with the Mystic Tomatoes. So, yeah, stealing monsters in this deck, incredibly strong. Your opponent will often have a monster in play because they'll summon, try to attack your Krebins, you'll negate the attack, and then on your turn you steal their monster and you synchro with it. Backward removal, it's too important. You have to play Heavy Storm and Typhoon, even though they suck against Frogs and Lightsworn. Lure of Darkness, this deck has a billion darks. Rhoda, like I said, Warrior Package. The shadow foils on these look crazy good. And then the last 2 spells are 1 Telekinetic Power Well and 1 Emergency Teleport. I think Power Well is kind of the 41st card in this deck. It is 41, but the deck is just a bunch of power cards, so I don't know. I couldn't decide what to cut. I wanted to fit more cards in this deck, honestly. That's how many good cards you could put in this deck. But yeah, I think that Power Well is still good enough to play, and it makes your Greffers and your Armageddon Knights like actually have value later into the game because you can like send Krebins and then eventually set up for like a big Soul Charge play with the Telekinetic Power Well. So that's pretty cool. Also, like, if you have like Greffer, Krebins, and then you set Tomato, you can float Tomato into Malicious, and then normal Greffer, pitch Krebins, and then Power Well, and then go crazy with that because then you have 2 level 6s and the 2 tuners, and then yeah, it's just pretty strong. It's pretty strong stuff. All right, moving on. Trap cards, Double Phoenix Wing. I should have copied from Kambama and only played 1. This card is not very good against Frogs. I think that's the biggest issue with this card that I have is that it has some applications against Frogs, but it's not very good against Frogs. Double Bottomless. This is probably the best trap card in the format. It's good against Blackwings. It's good against Vayu. It's good against Frogs. It's good against Glads. It's good against every deck. Nah, it's not the best trap card in the format, but it's up there. It's top tier trap card. So play 2. This deck is only all of the most broken cards. 1 Trap Dust Shoot. 1 Solemn Judgment. You know the vibes. 1 Torrential Tribute. You already get it. You already know where this is going. 1 Mirror Force. We're just playing the ban list. 1 Call of the Haunted. And then 1 Return from the Different Dimension. So this deck plays something like 27, 28 restricted list cards. All of your opening hands are going to be busted. Let's move on to the extra deck. These cards don't need a lot of explanation. If you play a lot of Edison format, you'll understand why this is just 30 broken cards and then like a few engine cards barely holding it together, pretty much. All right, extra deck, moving on. You got to have the Gores token. I think I stole this Gores token from Tommy Dang. Tommy, if this is your Gores token, I have it. Anyway, moving on. Armory Arm, yeah, level 4. Comes up when you steal Dupe Frog. Cataster, level 5, whatever. Urukizis, Pierce for Game, also level 6 for laddering, so you don't have to waste your Brownic or your Goyo, which are the next 2. Urbellum, this could be an android, but I felt he came up a little bit because I was main decking the Cyber Dragon. But yeah, this could be an android. Black Rose Dragon, blow up the field, very important. Blackwing Armor Master, we are playing the Gale, so we got the Armor Master. Shout out my boys for hooking me up with this one. You know who you are, YCS, or not YCS, RBET Maryland. And then Stardust Dragon, the OG, Dark End Dragon, the prize card. I don't have the prize card one, but if I did though, oh my gosh. All right, Thought Ruler Archfiend, Colossal Fighter, you know the vibes. Red Dragon Archfiend. This guy comes up quite a bit actually. I like Red Dragon. Mistworm, this guy doesn't come up that much. I consider cutting him as well for Chimera Tech, and then I have one Chimera Tech. So I was thinking of maybe going to 2 Chimera Techs because machines can be a bitch. So yeah, there's a few like flex slots here and there in the extra deck, but overall, very beautiful extra deck. All the best boys, you know what it is. Side deck. This side deck, man, side decking in Welledad is hard because you're like, man, do I really want to cut this broken limited card from my deck to bring in like a Breaker the Magical Warrior? And the answer is like, yeah, you probably should, but it never feels good. You know what I mean? It never feels good to side out Heavy Storm for like Soul Release. So you're just like, what am I doing with my life? Anyway, the sideboard is a lot of 1-ofs because the deck is a lot of 1-ofs, but the sideboard needs some fixing, and I'll tell you which cards I would have changed. All right, Breaker the Magical Warrior, 1-of. I don't think I sided this card in once, so yeah, I'm not really sure if this guy should stay. Puppet Plant, there are some Hero Beat players at my league, so I figured maybe I'd try to tech for them, but it never came up, so it's kind of like high risk, high reward type shit. Tragodia, this card's great. I did side it in a couple of times, so I can recommend siding this. I would say continue to side it for sure. 1 Blackwing Sirocco, I sided this in. I like him a lot, especially against Vayu and Blackwings. His pump effect counts all of the Blackwing monsters in play, not just your own. 1 Dyna, pretty good card. I'd continue to play the 1. 2nd Cyber Dragon, I would also continue to play this. The card is very good. 1 Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, this card is fantastic. I probably would have played 2. So instead of the Breaker, I would have played a 2nd Kaiku. Or in the future, I would play 2 Kaiku, 0 Breaker. I think that that's just better overall. Breaker is good against Vayu Turbo, and he's like pretty good against stuff like Quick Draw as well. But he's actually like just as good as Kaiku is against Vayu Turbo, and he's like, I don't really feel like I need to side that much versus Quick Draw because the deck is already like built pretty powerfully into that deck. 1 DD Crow, this card was okay. I would continue to keep playing the 1-of. I copied that from Kambamwa. 1 Soul Release, this card was great. I wish I had more. I actually wish I had a second one. So I think the Puppet Plant, I would have done a 2nd Soul Release. So 2 Kaiku, 2 Soul Release for sure. You want to be able to hate out those stupid graveyard decks, particularly Frogs. And you want to make sure you see it. 1 Royal Oppression, this may seem weird in our special summon deck to play Royal Oppression, but it's actually really good. You side it in a lot of matchups like Glads where you can just put up a big monster like a Sirocco or like a Synchro, and then you flip Royal Oppression, and then they just kind of can't really do their thing. It's also really good against like Quick Draw and stuff, and you can shut it off in a couple of different ways, which I'll get into in a minute. And also you can play under Royal Oppression pretty effectively with Krebins and Dakaias, that sort of thing. So there's not really like there's not as much downside as like playing this in the deck like Zombies or whatever, because you're actually pretty normal summon heavy in the deck as well. Light Imprisoning Mirror for Lightsworn. I always like this card in those matchups, and I always wish I drew more, but drawing multiples does suck, so I think just 1 is fine. 1 Compulsory, this did not get sided in once. It's for Vayu Turbo though, so I don't know. I'd probably keep it. It's pretty good with the Kaikus as well, so I'd probably keep the 1-of. 1 Dust Tornado, this card was not very good, and 2 Trap Stuns, which I've been siding a lot lately, and they're okay. They kind of combo with the Royal Oppression, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I think the only cards I was really happy with in the sideboard was the Kaiku, the Soul Release, the Dyna, the Sirocco, the Trag, and the Cyber Dragon. I think these 6 cards I'd probably bring no matter what, and maybe the Royal Oppression as well. I'd probably bring this no matter what. But these 7 cards, they seem to make the most sense to me. If anything, I'd just double down on Soul Releases and Kaikus to banish the graveyard more. And I'd probably play, some amount of these cards depending on what you think your meta is going to be like. All right, let's go ahead and just hop into the tournament gameplay. That's the deck list. I'm going to be refining this over the next few weeks. Like I said, few things I would change, few things that I wouldn't change. But the deck is great. It plays a lot of power cards, and it's a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to play. So see you guys in the matches. All right, tournament gameplay time, boys. It's lit. My round 1 opponent was a little bit newer to the format.
he was not newer to the game. Like, he knew how basically all of the mechanics, all the rulings worked and stuff like that. But his deck was a little bit of, I would say, like a good card mashup of like stuff from the limited list. However, I did notice when he was talking to me about the game that he didn't have an extra deck or a side deck on him. He just had like 40 powerful cards that he had like in his closet or whatever. And so I decided to challenge myself in this match, and I decided to try and win the game without using my extra or my side deck as well. So we could play at least on even footing, 40 versus 40. This is not something I'd recommend. Honestly, if you're in a tournament, you've paid money to be there, just beat your opponents. But for me, it would be a little bit more fun, and I think it will make for a little bit more fun content, etc. So yeah, we opened up our booster packs, our opening booster packs, and then we decided to get into the game. We do a little dice roll action. Hopefully you guys can see this well enough. Let me see if I can up the quality. Let's see. 1080. Should be in 1080. Anyway, whatever. That boy rolls the dice, roll the dice, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. You get the idea. All right, present the decks, set life, whatever. All right, let's get into the game. So I think I lost the die roll. I don't really remember. I might have won it. I'm not sure, but I think I lost it. And he starts with set monster, set a couple back row, and pass. So his deck looks a lot like kind of a GOAT format deck with like some stuff like Gores and stuff mixed in. And he's going to hit me with Trap Dust Shoot. So pretty tough. You can see my opening hand here. I've got Reaper, Morphing Jar, Sangan. So those are 3 options. We've also got Solemn Judgment, Bottomless, and the Power Well. The best card in our hand is obviously Morphing Jar. It's the highest power level card. But he's already got his cards in play, so the Morphing Jar is not going to be too great for us. And it's also not going to pitch anything like a Malicious or a Krevins or a Necrogarna. So it's not like getting our grave set up either very well. I think my game plan here is going to be set my cards and set the Spirit Reaper. He's probably going to take Morphing Jar because it is the best card in my hand. I do believe he does take that. He might take Sangan. I don't really remember what he takes. Okay, yeah, he takes Sangan. That makes sense because maybe he has more trap cards that he's going to set here to try and play around Morphing Jar. So, yeah, I offer him the cut. He cuts, passes back. I just set Spirit Reaper, set 3, pass. Because I want to bluff the jar, and I want to see what he's going to do to play into the jar. If he can't set a bunch of cards, then I may commit the jar next turn. But, yeah, I figured I'm going to set all these 3 anyway. He flips Spy, he gets another Spy, so no Descendant, thankfully. This would have been really hard if it was Descendant. That being said, if he goes Descendant priority, I can chain Bottomless. And, it's a 2-for-1, which sucks, but whatever. What can you do? I figured he wouldn't do that, though, even if he did have Descendant, because he might want to get this Morphing Jar plus, which would be nice for us. So he's going to set some back row. He's got multiple Lightning Vortex in hand, and he's got a main deck Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. So that's going to be met with Bottomless from me, because I don't want to deal with Kaiku. My deck actually struggles to deal with it, especially game 1. He's going to attack. There's a Spirit Reaper. Same shit. You get the idea. So you guys can see, like, even the power cards in GOAT format, like Dust Shoot, Spy, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, like, they're pretty strong cards. Lightning Vortex even are pretty strong cards in Edison format. They can win games, like, the same way they do in GOAT format, basically. He draws for turn. He has to read Spirit Reaper, probably trying to figure out if he can kill it with Lightning Vortex, and I think he does try to do it here. He sets 1, and then he flips his set Lightning Vortex, and then pitches a Lightning Vortex. And I decide to Solemn here because I really don't have anything going on, and I can't afford to give him a Morphing Jar for 5. So I Solemned. I do need a rip to get out of this situation, but my hand is pretty bad. I think it's like Jar and another monster I didn't feel like playing. Might have been a Plague or something. I don't remember. I just set a back row pass. Trying to build up resources here so that I can like start to crack through, or just find a Caius. That's really my goal. Anyway, he's reading his cards. He's going to go for Dust Tornado. He's going to target the new one, which was Call of the Haunted, which is a card I drew. Pretty bad card to draw here. It's pretty terrible with Spirit Reaper, obviously, because it continuously targets. So if you bring back Spirit Reaper off Call of the Haunted, it just destroys him. He summons Zombire the Dark. This is a popular card in GOAT format because Zombire can run over Gravekeeper Spy. It can also run over like Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer and Blade Knight. So yeah, it's played a lot in the main decks in GOAT format, but not so much in Edison format. It's a pretty good card in Edison format. Like, it's pretty good against Blackwings, and it's pretty good against Glads and stuff. I actually think it's underrated. It's also a deck devastation target as well, and it's a Rota target. So there's a lot to be said there. He reveals he does have the 3rd Lightning Vortex, and that's going to kill my Spirit Reaper. So he could have done that on the last few turns to apply some pressure, but thankfully for us, he's going to attack, and it's a Mystic Tomato that we were able to find, and now our engine is online. He shows Royal Oppression, and like I said, he is a little bit newer to Edison format, and I'm not sure. He says he's not sure how Oppression works in Edison format. He just knows it's different than in GOAT. And I say you still can't use it in the damage step, basically. And we use the dice to signify how much Zombira has lost. He decides on resolution here to activate the Royal Oppression, which is totally fine. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And yeah, he just tries to switch the spies, but I remind him that he switched them to attack this turn, and they can only change their battle position once. So draw for turn is, I don't even remember. I just go ahead and attack over a spy to deal 200. The life here is going to be, I believe I've lost 4,000. So I'm at 4,000, and he's only lost 200. So he's at 78. Passes back. Draw for turn is, I don't even know. Bunch of monsters. I got a Krebins there. Not going to be very useful into Royal Oppression. So once again, just like the power cards, Royal Oppression, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, Lightning Vortex, Gravekeeper Spy, like they're still good enough to like hang with some of the decks for a while until I draw my Heavy Storm or my Space Typhoon, and then I can really explode. But yeah, like if you have some power cards from GOAT format, you want to play some Edison format, like you're going to get some competitive games. He flips Jar of Greed, he draws into Gores. Pretty unlucky to draw into Gores after Oppression has already been stuck on his board there, but it is what it is. I got a Cyber Dragon in my hand. I could always tribute the tomato for a Cyber Dragon and then start to run over his monsters. And eventually I do find Caius. And I'm going to Caius target Royal Oppression. And then I'm going to special summon Dark Arm because I got 3 Darks. And then I'm just going to blow up both his cards and then attack with both. And that's probably going to be all she wrote. So the one thing that you do need, I think, in the GOAT format decks that you do lose is probably that idea of a boss monster. Something like BLS obviously isn't in Edison format, so something like Dark Arm Dragon or Judgment Dragon, depending on like what type of deck you're building, but probably Dark Arm Dragon. Here he finds Creature Swap and he tries to take the Dark Arm Dragon, but I'm like, oh, I get to choose with Creature Swap, and he's like, I messed up. And in his brain, he probably meant to attack over the Gores with, or attack over the Caius with Gores, and then Creature Swap take the Dark Arm Dragon. But he ends up sacrificing for Jinzo just to show off the Jinzo before the game is over, and we pop the Jinzo and attack for game. And that's going to be that. So, yeah, a few mistakes from the opponent, just like format familiarity stuff, but like, honestly, like power cards are power cards. Royal Oppression is still scary, and I'm thinking, yeah, I still want to stick with my challenge, my self-challenge of not using the extra deck and not using my side deck for games 2 and games 3, because he doesn't have either of those things himself. So, pretty fun match so far. A lot of back and forth, a little bit with the triple Lightning Vortex action, a little bit of Gores action. We honestly could have gotten robbed there by Creature Swap had he just done something a little differently. Naturally, we had cards in our hand to come back. I think I had Cyber Dragon Krebins, so I could have at least like Black Rosed, but it would have been very unfortunate to have my Dark Arm Dragon go down and then have to spend my whole hand to answer my own Dark Arm Dragon and be at a lower life total. Like, anything could have happened from there. Maybe he top decks another Oppression or another Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer or whatever. He activates Wave Motion Cannon and passes it back to me. I draw Morphing Jar again. Special summon Cyber Dragon. So, yeah, main deck Cyber Dragon putting in a lot of work, both in this game and the last one. I actually think it's pretty strong in any Krebins deck because you can just try and Black Rose people. So, yeah. I ask if he has anything on the summon. I tell him, like, here, if he has Royal Oppression, he could do it. He's going to reveal his Gravekeeper Spy set, and he's going to get another one. I was a little bit nervous it could be his own Morphing Jar, because I'm pretty sure he's probably playing it if he's coming straight from GOAT format. I set a monster and pass. He draws a card. We put a dice to remind us. There's been one turn on Wave Motion Cannon. He's going to flip Jar of Greed, draw a new card. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty competent deck, all things considered. Like, the fact that he doesn't have whatever. He has a Creature Swap. He's kind of eyeing it. He's going to go ahead and use Scapegoat, which gets him 4 tokens. So yeah, we just decided to use these cards from our opening packs, from our entry packs. And then he uses Creature Swap, and I just give him my set monster, which is a Mystic Tomato. So, yeah, pretty tough Creature Swap for him. He can't summon this turn because of the Creature Swap, and so he's probably forced to just pass. Yeah. He can set, I believe. I forget how Scapegoat is worded. I think he can set. Like, he could tribute set this turn, I think, if he wanted to tribute set. And if he did have Chimera Tech, tribute set Jinzo and then contact into Chimera Tech would be kind of funny, but he can't summon the Chimera Tech this turn anyway because of the Scapegoat. So would have been a little bit better for him to like sort of use the Scapegoat on my turn and then go back to his turn and use the Creature Swap when he can also summon. But I think he was a little bit scared of things like falling apart there. I normal summon Gale, and like I said, I'm planning on not synchro summoning, and I'm also planning on not siding this game. So we're not going to make Stardust or anything. We're just going to play into Mirror Force if he has it. I'll attack the set. Mystic Tomato, and he's going to Book a Moon the Gale. So he had Book a Moon for Gale anyway. How we wanted to synchro or whatever. This is turn 2 on Wave Motion, but we haven't taken any damage, so still needs another 6 turns to beat us. Here he flips the tomato. He's got a Syrup Priest in hand, which is pretty good too. Probably didn't need to flip the tomato there, but he does have what looks like a Magic Cylinder in hand as well, which could be very useful for him. He's going to attack the token, and then he's going to attack the yugioh. Yeah, probably just didn't need to flip the tomato at all. Sets Magic Cylinder. The Syrup Priest goes back to hand. His last card there is Card Destruction. I'm going to use Heavy Storm, which I top decked. Based power cards, right? And then, yeah, I mean, pretty simple stuff. I just normal summon a guy. I just attack the tomato. I think I forget to use the monster I get off the tomato to attack a token, but whatever. I don't think it matters that much. I figured his hand is a Syrup Priest plus 1 unknown. Like, what could he do to Cyber Dragon plus Krevens with no extra deck? Probably not that much. And you can see here, like, how much Cyber Dragon warped Goat format. It's very difficult for, like, your average pile of Goat cards to really out a Cyber Dragon. And it's kind of like a cool little history lesson here. Like, if you're playing cards from Goat format, like, how difficult it is. You see my hand had Doom Caliber, Dark Arm Dragon, and Morphing Jar. I was probably trying to set up towards that. Dark Arm Dragon without Synchro Summoning, it's actually quite difficult, which is funny. He's going to summon normal summon King Tiger. King Tiger is going to attack Krevens, and I'm going to pay 800 to negate the attack. Fairly straightforward stuff. This is kind of like round 1 tournament stuff, Like, sometimes you just get paired against, like, the dude who has a deck and wants to play, you know what I mean? And that's round 1 tournament stuff, right? It says that pass. We're pretty far ahead here. We have, like, 6 cards to his 2, and we're going to clear these tokens pretty easily. I was playing around Mirror Force because why not, Go ahead and flip Plague, because now I can just play into the Mirror Force, because he didn't Mirror Force my Cyber Dragon. I figured he would have to Mirror Force the Cyber Dragon alone, and just kill all 3 tokens. Set another back row, pass the turn. He draws for turn. I think it's Swords of Revealing Light. He thinks for a while, and then he plays the swords, and then, we just wait out the 3 turns. It's just going to be a matter of, like, piecing together a win here. He draws for turn. It's Kaiser Coliseum. It's not going to do anything because I already have monsters in play. There goes the swords. He's got Wave Motion now. And, yeah, he goes for Swords of Concealing Light to put all my monsters face down, which is pretty cool. Then on my turn, he goes Call of the Haunted, target King Tiger, I think. And then I bottomless the King Tiger when it comes out, because I just don't want him to run over any of my guys, particularly the Cyber Dragon, who is kind of my win condition at this moment. I think I win the game this turn. I think I have, I read Swords of Concealing Light. I'm like, okay, what do I have to do to beat this card this turn? And the answer is I just sack for Kaya, sack the Plague, target the set monster. That'll deal him 1,000. And then I think I have Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, pitch Special Dark Grepher, pitch Core Special Dark Grepher to get extra damage. Phoenix Wing, pitch, target the Swords of Concealing Light. And because he's lost a little bit of life points, this is going to be lethal. So, yeah, round 1 tournament goes pretty well. One without using the side or the extra. Cyber Dragon goes crazy versus a pile of Goat cards. Kind of a cool little match. I mean, not the most relevant competitive match, but the next match will be. So, yeah, let's hop into that. Round 2. Round 2 is up against, I believe, RBET winner, Monster Gamer. And he's playing Lightsworn Flamvels. So this is going to be a much more difficult match. Not only because his deck is scary fast and scary powerful, but also because he plays Imperial Iron Wall, which is a very good card against my deck. Anyway, I start off with set 3 pass, which is pretty slow starts. I have no normal summons that I really want to commit. And this is why I really miss the Doom Cows. It's just, they're just like a good normal summon turn 1 that like starts building up towards the darks and like slows down your opponent's strategy. Like, let's say he has a Lightsworn here to mill. I go ahead and Mind Control Blind because I have Krevens in hand. My hand is not good though. I have Space Typhoon, Heavy Storm, Mind Control, Brain Control, Krevens, E-Telly, I believe. So it's a very like hand that does nothing against a deck with no back row, basically. So we're gonna E-Telly out Krevens. Oh, it might be E-Telly Powerwell. It might not even be another Krevens, which would be better. So we can attack here for 1,200, which I do to play around Gores, and then I go ahead and Synchro into Goyo Guardian or Bionic. I'm not really sure which I make. I make Urukizus. Bionic probably would have been better, but yeah. He's going to charge the Light Brigade, mill 3. There's mill Wolf, and I'm immediately punished for putting Urukizus into play because he dies to Crash Wolf. I didn't know what he was playing at this point. I just saw the hamster, So I didn't know he could charge Mill Wolf. That obviously would have informed my decision into playing like something different there. But I decided to make Urukizis because I had Powerwell, and I was kind of like, I was considering laddering into Stardust if he just like sets a Raikou or something, which is kind of what I expect from decks that like set Hamster turn 1, set no back row. I also didn't want to be in a situation where, anyway, I Solemn Judgment the Solar Recharge because I just don't want him to get his engine going. I don't want him to get to JD, because if he gets to JD, I kind of fucking lose, basically. I've got Brain Control in my hand, but he's got Celestia, and I'm like, well, fuck. That was another thing I was trying to avoid him digging into, but yeah, he ends up just being able to pop both my back row here. And I think it's Space Typhoon Heavy Storm. Space Typhoon Call of the Haunted, that's what it was. Call of the Haunted was my last card, not Powerwell, but I knew it was something like to that degree. Hand is just Heavy Storm, Brain Control, and he can run over the Urukizis, and yeah, we're pretty much dead lost here. So, really tough, really tough game versus the Lightsworn stuff, and I'm at like 0 life points. I think I concede shortly after this. I Brain Control, I attack for 37, and then he does nothing, and then I Synchro into Urbellum or something like that. But at this point, I've seen enough. I've seen Flamvell Magician in the graveyard. I know generally what his strategy is going to be. I go ahead and Synchro into Urbellum, but then he has JD just to close the game out and then pay 1,000 attack per game, and that's going to be that. So, yeah, moving on to the next one. Pretty standard Lightsworn game. He goes Charge, Recharge, Mill Wolf, Celestia me turn 2, or turn 1 even, and then, was it turn 1? Oh, it was turn 2, and then he has JD to close things out, so pretty tough. This is another one of those matchups where I really wished I had a second Kaiku. I think I mentioned that in the deck profile, but yeah, I really wish I had a second Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, and honestly a second Soul Release wouldn't have been that bad either. Alright, let's go ahead and fast forward to the next game. Let me just skip a bit here. Okay, cool. So I get to go first, which is nice. I did get to go first last game, but I didn't have a normal summon. This game I do have my one of Doom Caliber, and I'm feeling pretty strong because Doom Caliber is just really good against Lightsworns, so yeah, I like having him. I think I should definitely play at least 2. It's a really strong card in this deck. Even if you're just poking for 19, obviously he has the one of here, which really punishes us, which is Card Trooper, and he gets a good mill of Necrogarn off the Card Trooper, so yeah, really owned. Immediately after I'm saying it's good against Lightsworn, he has the one of that punishes it, but generally speaking, Doom Caliber is going to trade up against Lightsworn. Krebin's Poke, pretty useful, just to get some damage and hold the board. It's pretty good against Firedog too, unless he has Book, so he's looking at the Krebins right now, and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, I can't out this Krebins at all. Yeah, so he's going to recharge, pitch Arcus, draw 2, mill 2. Arcus doesn't stop Krebins because his effect doesn't target, so yeah, no easy way for him over the Krebins here, which is pretty funny. He's got Rekindling, he's got a bunch of other stuff, but there's no way for him to clear Krebins, and this is the strength of Krebins. Just sits there, and he just vibes. Sets monster, passes a turn back. I've got Caius the Shadow Monarch, I believe? No, I've got a second Krebins. That's super funny. Caius is pretty good in this deck. He's going to Raikou target my back row. It's a Phoenix Wing. But once again, if he couldn't get through 1 Krebins, how's he going to get through 2? Chances are he can't. So, just pass. Whatever. Just poking him, chipping away at his life total with Krebins. I think he's pretty low at this point. We've hit him quite a few times with Krebins. Twice with Krebins now? Maybe 3 times? He's at like, I don't know, 4,400 or something like that. Maybe 5,600. Either way, good pokes. Good poke damage. I'm looking at my hand. I don't know what I've got in my hand here. I see I think it's a Light Mirror that I sighted in versus him. Pretty useful against the Lightsworn parts. I normal summon Morphing Jar, and I decided to just Synchro climb into the Bryonic. Oh no, into Goyo Guardian. And then I special summon Dark Arm Dragon because I have 3 darks, including the Doom Caliber, and just blow up his hamster. And then hit for 28. And then hit for 28 again. Which would be lethal because he's taking 24, but he's got Necrogar now. So, yeah, force the issue, set the back row, pass turn. Back row's Light Mirror. If he has like Brain Control, Bukamu, and stuff like that, he can break this board. Light Mirror is not very good defensively against just a normal summon Fire Dog or whatever. So, yeah, pretty tough spot if he has like the comeback plays, but he needs to have the comeback plays, and they need to not be JD, even though JD does kind of beat my board. I have Brain Control, and he can't blow up the board because I've got Light Mirror, so it's not the worst. He does have Fire Dog here, though, which is pretty good. And He's going to go stack for Plague. So his play here is a Synchro 6 play. Thankfully, it's not Fire Dog Book. That would have been much harder for us to beat. He's going to go Brownic. He has to bounce my cards here. Dad and Goyo Guardian. But I've got Brain Control in my hand. So I'm not that worried. He attacks for 23. We take it. I don't think we'd taken any damage this game so far, so I think that was just first damage, and I just revealed the Brain Control. And I just bounce his card, and then, yeah, E-Telly out Krebins, and attack for game with both. So, yep, concedes. E-Telly, Dark Arm Dragon, powerful cards. When you draw them, your deck feels very broken. Possibly worth considering Gold Sarcophagus. I've played versions of this deck with Gold Sarcophagus just to search Dark Arm Dragon. I really liked it in the versions with multiple Doom Caliber Knights because Doom Caliber Knight does a great job of buying you time or forcing your opponent to make weird plays while you're trying to, I don't know how to say it, like get those 2 turns off Gold Sark, basically. Like, yeah, basically. That's the general idea behind it. Is like, oh, I summon a Doom Caliber. It makes you kind of slow down your strategy. It buys me extra turns for my Gold Sark, and it fuels me Darks for my Dark Armed, which I have searched off Gold Sark, so I do think that like there's merit to playing Gold Sark in the Doom Caliber builds. Anyway, siding. I did see Iron Wall that game because he milled it, I believe. So I make a play this game that plays around Iron Wall. You'll notice my hand has Necro Gardna, DD Crow, Cyber Dragon, and I believe I have a 2-star tuner as well. I'm not even sure. I think it's a Plague. He charges for Gareth, which is really good for us because this means the Crow will get value here. He goes Illumina, pitch Gareth, and then I've got DD Crow, banish the Gareth, so pretty strong DD Crow. Can't even complain. He sets 2 back row and flips 3. Mills Mind Control, Brain Control, and Imperial Iron Wall. Okay, he milled it this game. That's what it was. So I'm looking at my hand. I have Sidra Caius, and I could Sidra Caius, banish the Illumina, keep him off names, but I'm a little bit scared of Iron Wall, so I decide to just normal summon the Plague and Black Rose and trade 2 for 3, blowing up his Iron Wall and his Threatening Roar. And now my hand is actually pretty good. I've got Caius, which I can play next turn thanks to the Plague. I've got Necrogardna, which I can, poke him with if I need to or whatever. Anyway, I decided to just keep him off Lightsworn names here, keep him off JD, and I stack for Plague, special summon Plague, sack for Caius, target his monster, and attack for 24, and just hope he doesn't have Gores. Because I'm not winning the long game against this deck, and my hand is not winning the long game because I've got bricks like Necrogardna in it. So he's going to go T-set. I'm going to draw for turn. I'm going to attack the set monster. It's going to be his Necrogardna. I'm going to set my Necrogardna and pass. Or maybe not my Necrogardna. I think it might be the Spirit Reaper. He normal summons Arcus, sets back row and passes, so he doesn't have JD access quite yet, which is really nice for us. We have Gale, but Gale's not going to get over Arcus. Well, it does get over Arcus, but plays into Mirror Force, kind of. I decided to just attack the Arcus with my Caius to play around Mirror Force, and he shows Threatening Roar, so I should know at this point he doesn't have Mirror Force. I set my Necrogardna now and pass. I'm looking to try and synchro with Gale and Necrogardna maybe for Goyo Guardian. But he has his own Necrogardna in Grave, so he can defend a little bit. He's thinking here. He decides to just switch the Arcus to defense, I believe, and then mill 2. Yes, he mills Vortex and Recharge. Vortex would have been a really good draw for him. But, yeah, I flip Reaper because I want to get the last card out of his hand. But he has Torrential, so I was like, dang. He didn't have Mirror Force, but he had Torrential. And that's a really good Torrential. He hits our Necrogardna, he hits everything. I want to check his graveyard. I could summon this Gale and start pressuring him because I have Necrogardna to defend it. But I decided to just set up a card and pass. I probably should have used the Gale, though, to keep his life total low. Draw for turn is I don't remember what. Yeah, and it would be nice to have Gale in play this turn as well. So, anyway, I summon Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. Really powerful card. Once again, I said I wish I had a second one in this matchup, and I really do. I attack. He flips Iron Wall, but at this point, I've gotten value out of just about everything except for the Necrogardna. So if he draws Fire Dog this turn, we may have some problems. Thankfully for us, he just passes. So, yeah, we check the grave. Just looking at what resources we've used. I forget what's in my... I think I have Call of the Haunted set. I could be wrong. That's probably why I'm checking the graveyard here. I go for Rhoda. Oh, I was probably checking for Rhoda targets. I'm trying to see if I have game here. And I think I do. I have Pitch Mally, Special Greffer, and then attack with all 3. And that's going to be lethal. Yep. And he has Gorge with Iron Wall, so... yeah, just very tricky. Very, very tricky game. Little bit of conflict here and there, fighting around Iron Wall in key moments, and yeah, it just ended up lining up right for me. That game could have very easily swung either way. Had he ripped like a Fire Dog or something like that, here I'm deciding. I sided in the second Cyber Dragon because I just wanted to aggro him out. I wanted to kind of rush him down and keep the pressure on with like Grave Control and like fast threats like Cyber Dragon, Caius, that sort of thing. This is another matchup where I would have really liked to have 3 Caius as well. We do end up taking it, but like I said, we're probably pretty lucky to take this one because this matchup doesn't look very good for us. Yeah, it just doesn't look very good for us. Like Iron Wall makes things really hard. Even all our power cards kind of get shut off by that card. So yeah, moving on to round 3, 2-0. Round 3 is up against Blackwing. So yeah, another very difficult matchup. I think this is one of my most favorite matchups in the format though. I really like playing Welledad versus Blackwings. I think it's like, I don't know how to say it, but it is very back and forth in a cool way. Yeah, that's how I'd say it. Very back and forth in a cool way. So a little bit of a fist bump. You know, get the life point set. Go ahead and get the dice out, high roll, that sort of shit. Let me skip forward to what we're actually playing. All right, I think, here we are. So I think I win this dice roll. I could be wrong though. Yeah, I think I do. Do I win this dice roll? No, maybe I lost it. Yeah, I might have lost this dice roll. He's looking at his hand like he's playing. Yeah, okay, I lost it. He sets 2 and passes. So I'm thinking, okay, he's got the Blackwing map. Maybe he's playing Blackwings. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm not really sure yet. I forget what's in my hand. I've got Dark Grepher. I've got 2 Greffers and Armageddon Knight in my hand, which is, I was thinking maybe cutting a Greffer for the Doom Caliber and playing 1 Greffer. I think that 1 Greffer is probably plenty in this deck. You see it when you need to see it type shit. Anyway, attack into Mirror Force, and that makes me curious. Like, why would you Mirror Force a Greffer? I'm not really sure which decks Mirror Force a lone Dark Greffer there, but maybe he's a little bit worried of me like setting up my grave for Dad or something like that, and the Mirror Force getting bad as a result. So I normal summon Armageddon Knight. I believe I decided to send Plague because that gives me the most versatility without any other resources going on. It's a card I can take out of my graveyard if I go over 3 darks. It's a card that can turn on Caius, or it can turn on any sort of like Sangan draw, Necrogarnet draw, whatever. I attack for 14, and he's at 66, so pass the turn back. And the life total really, really matters in this matchup because both of you are going to get to a point where you can like make a push. He does have Siroko's, so he's going to summon 1. And now I'm not sure if he's on Vayu Turbo, so I decided to go for Bottomless in case he is and doesn't have Icarus. But if he has Icarus, we get blown out. That's kind of a high-risk moment there, but I think that like in the dark, I don't really know what he's playing. And he's kind of had a slow few turns, so I'm thinking maybe it's like Vayu Turbo and he's got like, I don't know, Dad Burial, that sort of thing, like some dead cards that... So I figured Bottomless is like, it's like a 50-50, but even against Blackwings, there's a chance they just don't have the Icarus, so yeah. And it just worked out well for us. The Bottomless is going to hit. Here comes Doom Caliber Knight, and it's just great pressure. He's forced to Bottomless himself. I was pretty certain we were going to get met with Bottomless at some point because the Armageddon Knight went through, and the only thing that doesn't stop Armageddon Knight is Bottomless, so yeah. We're able to poke for another 14, so he drops to 52, so that's pretty good for us. He's got Brain Control in hand, which is scary. He's got, I think, another Sirocco. Yeah, he summons the next Sirocco. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. Can't really do anything about this Sirocco. He specials Bora, and that's tricky. I forget what's set here. And then he specials Gale. His Gale's Sharpied on, which is funny. I ask him priority. He says yes. He has the Armageddon Knight. So, pretty tricky turn for us, but thankfully we haven't taken any damage, and this is kind of like his big 3-card push that he won't be able to make as big a push later into the game unless the game stalls out for a long time, because because like once you burn all your resources as Blackwings, there's no like Pot of Avarice to come back. It's like you maybe have a Blizzard or a Dark Arm Dragon in the mid to late game, but you usually won't have this big like 3-card burst again later in the game. It's pretty unlikely. So he kills my Armageddon Knight, and I actually let the attack go through. I think my set cards are Call of the Haunted and Phoenix Wing Windblast. Yeah, I believe those are my 2 set cards. And I let the attack go through because it's non-lethal damage. It's 5,000 over 700, so it's 4,300. It drops us to 37, which does suck, but I've got Brain Control in my hand. I've got a few ways to come back, and I wanted to spend that Phoenix Wing on his back row. That's what I wanted to do, because I wanted to be able to find a way to kill him this turn. And I end up not being able to do even close to enough to kill him this turn. But I do have that Call of the Haunted on Armageddon Knight, which is actually a really key interaction because it can bring Armageddon Knight back and become Necroguard Knight in the grave for a negate attack. So as long as I have that Call of the Haunted, I have a negate attack. So if I put up a big enough monster, he'll have maybe one big monster to get over it, and then I can negate attack it and then figure things out from there. I decide to Phoenix Wing his back row, pitching Malicious. My hand has, I think it's a Mystic Tomato. I don't remember. I've got Brain Control. I stack for Plague. It might be Gale. I'm not even sure. I Brain Control the Bora. Yeah, I just go for Goyo, take Stardust. And I figured this was the safest. It played around Icarus. It played around a lot of other stuff. And then I have Goyo, Stardust, plus Call of the Haunted on Armageddon Knight to make a Necrogarna. So he's taken, I think, 3,100. So he should be at 4,900, I believe. And we're kind of low because we took 43. We're at like 3,000 something. I don't remember. And we had to pay for Brain Control. So I think we're a little bit lower than him. I think we're at 2,900. He does have the Blizzard comeback play, but like I said, like after they do that one first burst, they can't really do like a second one. So it's going to be like Blizzard into either his own Goyo or into Bryonic. Now, if he does go Bryonic and he pitches his last two cards to bounce both the Synchros, he can then attack me, force the Call of the Haunted on... Because I think at this point I'm like low enough to where I think I'm at 29, yeah. I'm at 29. I wouldn't have to Call of the Haunted, but dropping to 600 never feels good. And I might Call of the Haunted just to shuffle my deck end phase anyway. But there's no more Plague play for me, so Call on Armageddon Knight isn't even that good. And if he bounces the Goyo, then it's not hitting my grave, so I can't call it back. So yeah, his hand is Brain Control plus, I believe, Royal Oppression? I don't remember. But yeah, he decides to Brain Control the Goyo, and then he decides to... There's a couple different plays he could make here. I think if he synchroed into Armed Wing and then attacked the Stardust and tried to get the Pierce damage and then Goyo direct, that could have been really good. Because if I stop the Armed Wing attack, then at least he can Goyo take the Stardust back and then like kind of secure something that way. But he decides to go for Bryonic, and he only has one card left now. This is kind of tough. It's like, do you bounce the Stardust and hope that there's no back row that stops you, or do you bounce the back row and just take the Stardust back and then have Bryonic Stardust against my Goyo Guardian? It's kind of tricky. I feel like he maybe needed to attack and try and steal the Stardust with Goyo, and then main phase 2 maybe bounce the Goyo Guardian with Bryonic. But instead he bounces the Stardust. I think that there was a lot of different things he could have done to leave himself in maybe a little bit better of a position than this. But he decides to go for game. And so I Call the Haunted, start a battle phase, target Armageddon Knight, and send Necrogarna. And now he can't go for game. He can kill my Armageddon Knight, but I'm going to get my Goyo back, and Goyo's going to steal his Bryonic, and then I'm going to have the board to his nothing. So, because I did have this Call of the Haunted into Armageddon Knight play, I was always going to be able to build a negate attack and survive this turn, just because I know how much resources it takes for Blackwings to put together like a really wide push, and he just didn't have that much resources to be able to do that, even with the Brain Control and the Blizzard. It's just not enough to be able to push through this. He passes back the Goyo Guardian. We draw for turn. I forget what we draw. We shuffled the deck. Oh, I think I shuffled away the second Dark Grepher, and then I drew it again, which is really funny. I decided to summon it, which in hindsight might be pretty stupid. What I could have done, so the reason I think this is stupid is because if he top decks Shura, now he can Shura run over the Bryonic and then get Vayu and then make Catastor, and then Catastor beats me. But what I was thinking is, if I Goyo take Bryonic, then I can pitch the Grepher to bounce the Bryonic, and so even if he top decks Shura, we do beat him. So I attack the Bryonic and steal it, because like now top deck Shura actually puts me in a really bad spot, because he has Sirocco and Grave, it gets into Vayu, he could even make Black Rose off of it, like, yeah, so I was thinking like, to play around top deck Shura, I could have kept the Grepher in hand and then bounced the Bryonic, but if he just doesn't top deck Shura, then I have better lucky than good, right? And he reveals that he top deck Dust Shoot there, so yeah, it just worked out really well for us, and we were able to take game one. Yeah, really tricky turn that one turn. I think he had a lot of different options there with the Blizzard and the Brain Control, but none of them won him the game. So I think that he just had to like try and fight for position there. And there's a bunch of different ways he could have done it. He could have synchro with the yugioh. He could have, not pitched his card. There was a bunch of different stuff he could have done. But I think going for game there is a little bit ambitious. He was maybe hoping my last back row was like a Phoenix Wing or something like that I couldn't use. And it just turned out it wasn't it. So going second against Black Wings is even harder, especially if they have Whirlwind. So that's kind of like what I'm preparing for here. I'm bringing in Cyber Dragon. I'm bringing in my Sirocco. I'm bringing in my Dust Tornado just in case he has Whirlwind and shit. So yeah, doing a little sideboarding, doing a little sideboard action, whatever. You get the idea. Moving forward. So shuffle up, present. You get the idea. Vibes. He checks his 6-card hand. See Heavy Storm there. You see Black Whirlwind. So he's got Whirlwind. He's got Bora. So pretty strong start from the opponent. But my hand's actually pretty good too. I've got Brain Control. I've got Cyber Dragon. I've got Caius. That's all I remember. So those are some pretty good cards. I think I have Space Typhoon as well. He sets 1 back row. He passes the turn back to us. Now I know what this game's going to be about. It's going to be all about life total, right? So my game plan here is to special summon Cyber Dragon to try and bait his back row. If it's Oppression, I can chain Typhoon, and I got that 800 damage. And that's really key, 800 damage. It's important to special the Cyber Dragon first, because if it is Oppression, then, like I said, you can bait that 800 damage, and this matchup's all about life total. Last game was all about life total, and this game's all about life total. Like, it just dictates the way you play, basically. Like, if your life total is low, then one of us is drawing to like a steal effect, like Brain Control or whatever, or one of us is drawing to a Bryonic setup that's going to kill the other person. So if you can get ahead on life total first, that's like the big strength of going second, is you get the battle phase. He goes ahead and uses Oppression. I chain Typhoon, hitting the Oppression. So pretty much perfect scenario for us. He drops a 72, and that 800 damage is going to be really important. I decide to sacrifice the Cyber Dragon for Caius, and I decide to target the Bora, because once again, life total is everything. Deal the 1,000 damage. I've got Brain Control in my hand. Yes, he could have another monster to normal summon, but I know for a fact that he searched Blizzard, and he's probably trying to set up Blizzard, bring back his guy, and I'd rather just banish his guy so that he doesn't have the Blizzard play next turn and he falls behind even one more turn there as well. And then I attack for 24. So this turn I've dealt 4,200 damage with my 3 cards. I think that's pretty good value. And on top of that, I've put him in kind of a weird spot. He's got Black Whirlwind. He can make a comeback play here, but I got the value. I got the max value out of all my cards, basically. Normal summon Shura. He gets the search. I'm like, okay, this is kind of annoying. He's at 3,800. I'm at 8,000. He specials Gale. He halves the Caius. He attacks over the Caius, and that's going to deal us some damage. And he's going to special summon Blackwing Vayu from his deck. He's going to attack us for some more damage, so now we're kind of at an even footing, but he has the board, so I have to somehow figure out how to get through his board while also dealing him damage. So he's at 38, and I'm at, I believe I took, is that 600 plus 21, so I've taken 27, which is real damage. I'm at 53. And then normally what people do here is they'll synchro into Armor Master first, and then they'll synchro with the Vayu and the Armor Master into Stardust. The reason you can synchro with the Vayu is because it's negated by Shura. And that gives you the Silverwind plus Stardust setup. And I think that that's a little bit more resilient. But he is a little bit more afraid of his life total. And he's probably trying to represent like a Kalut in hand or something like that. But even then, I still think it's better to go Silverwind Stardust than just Android Gale. And he gains 600 here. So yeah, generally speaking, Silverwind plus Stardust is a better setup. It also protects you from just like a board nuke, like just like a Black Rose play or something like that. I draw a card. I think for a while here, I've got Mind Control and Brain Control. He's at 4,400. So I can Brain Control the Android, and then I just need to find another 2,000 points of damage, and I've got a Tomato, so I can just normal summon that and synchro with the Gale and make Armor Master, and then that's going to be game. It takes me a second to think of it because I'm slow as fuck, but yeah, that's that. That's pretty much that. Show off the cool little Starfoil Armor Master and attack for game. So yeah, once again, if you can get the early life total lead, then you can find the last few points with something like Brain Control, Phoenix Wing, Bryonic. You just need to get that early push, that early aggression with like Doomcowl or Caius, and then later in the game, you need to be able to pick up a big synchro turn. I think our deck's a little bit better at OTKing than his deck is, but actually no, it's probably about the same. Yeah, it's a very back and forth matchup, and it's super fun, and it's all about knowing your position and your posturing of like, oh, I went second, so I want to take max advantage of like using my battle phase, and he went first, so he wants to take max advantage of like laying trap cards, basically. A bunch of other stuff too. You'll notice in his hand he had Dad, he had DD Crow, he had another Blizzard, and Heavy Storm. So he had a pretty crazy hand, but he just didn't have enough time to deploy those cards because I was playing a faster strategy with like Cyber Dragon and Brain Control and Caius. And Caius is one of the best cards against Blackwings for that reason alone. Knowing in your hand too, like my hand had Brain Control, right? So that's a hand that generally wants to hit the monster instead of hitting the Whirlwind. If my hand had a bunch of trap cards, or like, I don't know, like a Smashing Ground or something like that, like hypothetically speaking, I don't play Smashing Ground, but then you might want to hit the Whirlwind, depending on what kind of game you want to play. If you want to play the aggro game, or if you want to play the kind of like resource control game versus Blackwings, it really does depend on your hand. So yeah, really good match, really cool match. I think it showcased the strength of the deck, and it showcased the strength of like putting on early pressure with like Cydra Caius against Edison format's #1 most played deck. All right, let's move on to round 4. All right, round 4, finals. You know the vibe. We make it to the finals every single week. Oh my gosh, will I actually win one? I don't know. Stay tuned to find out. Let's check it out. So far, the deck has been performing kind of, I don't want to say as expected, but we've gotten some pretty sacky draws, and that's just kind of the nature of playing 30 limited cards in your deck, is that you're going to draw limited cards. I mean, if your opponent is playing against a deck of all one-ofs, can they really complain that you drew your one-ofs? Like, probably not. No. So, yeah. Start off with the die roll, and we lose it, which is tough. No, we win it. Do we win it? I think we win it. I think I won it, actually. Yeah, so always glad to win it. I'm playing up against Joe, who is currently the highest rated player in terms of points in Las Vegas as of right now. We do have a point system going, so we're ranking the players based off of not only their tournament attendance, but wins at the tournament as well. I believe it's like 1 tournament for every tournament, or 1 point for every tournament attended, 1 point for every tournament won, and 1 additional point for every first place. So yeah, I think Joe is currently #1 in Las Vegas, and he usually plays frogs. I think last week he was playing Raunuk's Geartown frog deck, but this week he is playing, I believe, like a hand control frog deck. He uses Swap Frog to attack me directly, and I drop Gores. So start off with Gores, but he's got 2 back row, and then we get Dust Shooted, and that's kind of tough because you'll see the hand. I've opened this exact hand 4 times in this tournament, where it's like Heavy Storm, Mind, Brain, no conversion. Kind of weird and awkward hand. It's just really, really awkward hand. I play Heavy Storm, clear his Mirror Force. So Heavy Storm actually getting use versus frogs is crazy. I attack for 1,000, and he has a Battle Fader. So my Gores isn't even going to do anything here, which is really frustrating. I just need to fade Caius this 1 turn and hope that that's going to be good enough for us, or some type of way to clear my Gores. But he does have the spot removal for the Gores, and it's enemy controller, so that's going to clear both the Gores and the Gores token for 1 card. And he's got Substitute as well, and he knows my back row, so he knows that there's nothing I can do here. Yeah, he can basically just do whatever he wants, and that's just tough. It's just tough. So yeah, pretty rough draw with regards to, like, I have all my like combo pieces, but not really whatever. He's got main deck Unifrog, which is rough as well, so we're going to take 1 billion damage here. And this one's probably just going to be over. The Dust Shoot is really crushing because he doesn't have to fear Torrential. He doesn't have to play around anything. He has perfect information. And he also had the perfect number of conversions, right? Like, he had Mirror Force, Force the Heavy Storm. He had Swap Frog to send the Treeborn Frog to set up for the Substitute. He had the enemy controller, and he had the Battle Fader to stop us from even dealing damage. So even if we are able to pull off like a big Brain Mind here, it's like not going to be good enough to even win the game, which is really frustrating. I could play slowly here, but since we took so much damage the last turn, we're going to die very quickly. And we're going to lose our return, which I commit to the board, just to try and make the bottomless whatever. I mind control the Unifrog just so I don't lose my return. I synchro off with Plague, and I pass the turn. I think, like, maybe if I can top deck Caius, I can, like, stack for Plague, sack Caius, I don't know. Figure something out that way, but... And maybe he's, like, a little bit light on ways to clear the Armory Arm, but turns out he just has Ryza as well, so... He drew the perfect amount of interaction and frogs, 2 back row, Battle Fader, enemy controller, 1 Swap Frog, 1 Substitute, and 1 Monarch. And that's going to be perfect. He did also hit the 50-50 on the bottomless, so that everything is just lined up perfectly for Joe this game, and we are going to lose. So I'm going to skip forward to game 2. This is another matchup where I would be very happy to have the second Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer or the second Soul Release, because banishing both Treeborn Frogs is pretty key. If you can banish both Treeborn Frogs, then even stuff like the Dupe Lock is not very good. They can't accrue additional bodies to like start stacking Monarch effects or enemy controller effects, and they'll eventually have to sack their Dupe Frogs to play Monarchs. So yeah, just banishing both Treeborn Frogs versus like these types of stereotypical Frog Monarch decks is kind of the best way to approach it. Do have to be careful of Light and Darkness Dragon, do have to be careful of a few other things, but yeah, we got Dino, we got Kaiku, we got Soul Release, we got a 1 of DD Crow, not the best card in this matchup, but it can maybe buy you a turn, who knows. I don't even think I sided in the DD Crow. Until I know it's Hero Frogs, I usually don't side in the DD Crow, unless I have multiples. But since we're only playing 1 in this build, it's like not very effective. So yeah, if we had multiple DD Crow, I would side them in, but because we only have 1, it's not very good. Anyway, this game we do get to go first again, which is nice, but that means we're going to have to play a tough game 3 where we go second. I set a monster and pass. He draws and passes back to me, and I look at my hand and I flip Necrogarna. And I decide to attack for 600, just to chip away at his life total. Sorry, not 600, but 1800. He's going to take 1800. So, yeah, Krebin's good pressure. 1200 is like, this is like good damage. He's going to drop his Gores now and use his waifu token or whatever. Notice Joe forgot his mat this week. It's funny because Joe's normally such a mat guy. He always has that purple Yggdrasil on him. But he forgot it this week for whatever reason. I don't even know. Sacks the token for Ryza, targets Krebins. Pretty big damage for us here. I decided not to synchro because I wasn't too upset with him killing my 2 cards. I wanted to leave the Krebins in play and force him to commit his Monarch. I have Emergency Teleport here, which will allow me to sack for Caius, so we did draw our powerful Emergency Teleport. If this card was at 3, I feel like this would be like an S tier deck. Or even at 2, I feel like this would be an S tier deck, but the fact that you only get to draw it some percentage of the time is like a little frustrating. Not frustrating, but just like, it is what it is. Yeah, draw for turn. We do have that Krebins in hand because he used Ryza to put it back on top of our deck. We are a little bit low. I believe we took 4,500, so we should be at 3,500 here, which is really dangerously low. I summon Fossil Dyna and I attack his set, and it's Treeborn Frog, so luckily for us. But he does have Solex into Vanity's Fiend. That's good for us because we have Gale. Gale cut the Vanities, run it over. I considered leaving it in play, but I decided to just attack over it. Set back row. He can now bring back the Treeborn Frog. I'm going to chain to Treeborn Frog Dust Shoot. He's going to show his hand. He's got Caius, Soul Exchange, Fader, Dust, and Torrential. So not as perfect a hand as he had last game. So pretty good for us. He's got Dust, Torrential. That Soul Exchange doesn't really have anything to do. He's just going to pass the turn back. And now we can kind of commit to the board because that Torrential is there. So I consider my options of like what I can play. I obviously don't really want to get Soul Exchange into a Monarch. I do kind of want to force the Fader. His life total's not incredibly low. He's only taken, I think, 1,900 this game. No, 2,900 because I banished Gores with Caius. So he's at like 51, which is like, it's still okay. It's okay. He has at least a turn or two. But I believe I'm thumbing Mally, Phoenix Wing Windblast, and Greffer and Krebins. So I'm going to go ahead and banish Mally to Special Mally here. We're going to go all out and force the Battle Fader this turn. I think that's the game plan. So I go Mally, attack Treeborn, attack with everything. And he's just going to think about whether he wants to drop the Fader or not. And I think he decides to drop the Fader. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think he decides to drop the Fader. Yeah, he does drop the Fader, so he takes none of the damage. Main phase 2, I'm going to synchro into Stardust Dragon to defend my set Phoenix Wing Windblast from that Dust Tornado, and to defend myself from Torrential Tribute, which I know about. So as long as he doesn't find a conversion for the Soul Exchange, we're looking pretty good to win the game over the next turn or two. It's still going to be hard, though, I think. He can't really commit his 2 back row because then it locks him out of Treeborn Frog. He does have Soul Exchange, target Stardust, sack for Thestalos, and like I said, he is playing like a hand control version that plays Thestalos and Water Art. So thankfully for us, it was not a Caius that would have completely destroyed us. But now because we have the Gale, we're able to take out the Thestalos here. So I can have the Gale, I can attack over it with Greffer to deal the maximum damage of 500 and attack over the Battle Fader. So we dealt 3,400 so far. I believe this game, yeah, 3,400 so far. And he's at 46, so he's going to go ahead and Dust Tornado my back row, and I'm going to chain Phoenix Wing, target the Treeborn Frog. He's now got Torrential set and 1 unknown in hand. We know he's drawing Treeborn Frog next turn. I draw for turn, I attack with both, and drop him to 1600. So this turn, he makes a play, and this is actually a really interesting moment here. I wonder what people would have done in this instance. We know his back row's Torrential, and we know he has one card in hand. He normal summons the Treeborn Frog. Yeah, he normals Treeborn Frog, I believe. The card I drew for turn was Solemn Judgment. And I wonder if any of you guys have ever Solemn Judgmented a normal summon Treeborn Frog. Because that's immediately what I do. As I Solemn Judgment the normal summon of the Treeborn. I think this is the correct play. Because now he can't Torrential. His last card in hand has to be good enough to deal with both Gale and Dark Grepher. And his last card in hand, it turns out to be Brain Control. If we Solemn Judgment on the Torrential, then we don't play around Brain Control. But because he's at 1600, if I Solemn the Treeborn Frog, he brains Grepher, attacks over Gale. Well, then we get the Grepher back and we attack for game. Because he drops to 800 off the Brain Control. And then if he takes the Gale, halves the Grepher, and attacks over it, then we get back the Gale, and then we get to attack for game. So Solemn Judgment on normal summon Treeborn Frog plays around Brain Control. It also plays around, like, yeah, I don't know what else he could have here. But it makes it so he can't get the Treeborn Frog back next turn either. So even if his last card's like Battle Fader, I guess he could Battle Fader then Torrential. But he shows me the Brain Control, and I decided to play around Brain Control by Solemning on the Treeborn instead of on the Torrential. If he goes normal Treeborn, and then we wait for the Torrential, and then we Solemn that. Oh, it also plays around Enemy Controller, I guess, which was another consideration. Yeah, Solemn the Treeborn to play around Enemy Controller, instead of Solemn on the Torrential. So it was Brain Control and Enemy Controller I was playing around. But basically the idea was if he has Enemy Controller, he can summon Treeborn, Torrential, we Solemn, and then Enemy Controller takes my Gale, and then he kills the Grepher, and then he's still high enough to do whatever, because he didn't have to pay the life points that he would have to for Brain Control. Yeah. And then if we Solemn the Torrential, but the Treeborn's still around, and he has Brain Control, then he can Brain the Gale, have, run over the Grepher, and then sync around to Armory Arm. So, yeah, pretty interesting game. I've never Solemned a Treeborn Frog and had it be the correct play, but in that instance, I think it definitely was the correct play to Solemn the Treeborn Frog. There's a bunch of other things to consider there, but, I mean, given the information we had against frogs, if you can just cut their normal summon and not give them any value, generally speaking, you're going to win whatever fight it is they want to fight. So a very interesting game, playing around a lot of different stuff, playing around back row. The dust shoot was very helpful for us. He had a very helpful dust shoot game 1. That took our big conversion, but yeah, game 3 is going to be the hard one, though, because we are going second, and like I said, he is playing hand control, so he is going to be able to rip apart our hand if he has one of his many ways to do that. So, pretty rough, I'm going to be honest. Pretty rough matchup. Our deck is kind of like a combo deck, and what is really good against combo decks that are trying to build up their resources is just, like, ripping their hand. Like, I feel like our worst matchups are probably going to be stuff that's, like, deck deving us or water arting us or Thestalos versus us, because it's attacking our resources while we're trying to build them up behind a Krebins. Makes it very difficult for us to really amount to things. Or I guess instant zombies could also be a very difficult matchup because they can summon Reaper on the Nightmare and attack our resources that way. Basically anything that can attack our hand resources is going to be really difficult for us, and his deck does a good job of doing that. So probably a really hard matchup. If I had to pick one, it'd be this. And I think in the future, like the adjustments for the sideboard that I would like to make are I would like to have a few more cards to banish Treeborn Frog, because if this deck is able to get its Treeborn Frog going, then yeah, it's really annoying to play against. So it goes Swap Frog, send Treeborn Frog, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, that's as expected. And then he dust shoots me turn 1. So pause to see the hand here. You can see I have Cyber Dragon, Caius, Malicious, Sangan, Windblast, and my own dust shoot. So we each have dust shoot. So this game's going to be played on like low resource, but the deck that plays better under low resource is the deck that has a Treeborn Frog coming back every turn. So Pretty tough, pretty tough. Wind Blast is also our worst back row versus frogs, but we don't have enough cards to side out or side in versus frogs that I can side out the Wind Blasts, sadly. So I think this is just like a failure on deck building in my part. I should have prepared for frogs. I know Joe plays pretty much every single week at the league, and yeah, I know he plays frogs, so I definitely should have cards on my sideboard for frogs, but I don't know, I was just trying a bunch of different random shit, and it's definitely on my part a mistake. He takes his Sangan, which actually cuts off most of our hand. We have no tuner access anymore, and Sangan was going to be able to allow us to apply pressure. Now we dust shoot him, and we see his hand, and his hand is fucked. It's double Substitoad, double Caius, and Lad swap. Dude, this hand is fucked. There's literally nothing you can take here with the dust shoot besides Lad. It's really unfortunate. If you only had one Caius or one Substitoad, we would have a much better chance this game, but both having the two Substitoads and the two Caiuses means he's going to be able to establish a dupe block, and he's going to be able to stick a Monarch and start looping it against us as soon as next turn. So just really fucking tough. So yeah, I'm like, what the fuck, man? This hand's insane. I decided to take Light and Darkness Dragon because he can bring back Treeborn, and then he can pitch special swap and then double tribute for Light and Darkness Dragon. That would be really bad for us. I think Light and Darkness Dragon hitting the field would be really, really bad for us. So yeah, I decided to take that guy. Maybe I was wrong, but I don't know. I would have to burn at least 2 cards to kill the Light and Darkness Dragon with my current hand, and I can't really afford that. So yeah, he summons Substitoad, activates the effect. I'm thinking here on the effect. I decide to Wind Blast the Substitoad, pitching Malicious to shuffle back the Substitoad. And then Substitoad is going to resolve. He's going to go get his... The reason I want to get Malicious in the grave here is, like, maybe next turn he goes for dupe block, and then I can utilize my Caius to rip apart his dupe block, and then he Caiuses my Caius, and maybe if I top deck Gorge or something, I can fucking figure something out. But we just don't have a great way of dealing with these Treeborns, except for Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer and Soul Release. And so what I'm doing is I'm buying myself an opportunity to top deck one of those cards and win the game on the spot right here. So if I draw Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer or Soul Release in this position, which is a position that you can initiate fairly easily versus frogs, then you usually immediately win the game. He's got 2 Treeborns in the grave, draw for turn, and it's neither of those cards. So this is top deck number 1 of the setup I have initiated to try and draw that and be able to shut him off of his resources and win the game. Unfortunately, yeah, we didn't get there. So he's going to normal Swap Frog here, send another Swap Frog. He's not going for the dupe block, which is interesting. He's just going to attack me for 1,000, and then he's going to, I believe, set Water Art and pass. We draw for turn here, and then he Water Arts me, and that's just going to be kind of lights out situation. Even if I had drawn the Soul Release this turn, I needed my full hand of cards to, like, really mount a comeback against his 2 Caiuses that are going to be for free here. And him having the perfect hand knowledge is very frustrating as well. So I did draw the Royal Oppression. I did side that in for the Substitoads, but I honestly think Royal Oppression is like, it's like a pipe dream against this deck. Like, it's not very good. Generally, it's only there to stop Battle Fader when you go for game, but it's usually not that good. He's going to take Caius, and yeah, my hand does nothing now. He can just set up the dupe block, and like if I set Oppression, he Caiuses it. If I don't set Oppression, he sets up the dupe block. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. It's possible I should have set the Oppression to force the Caius, but then he also can just like summon swap and attack me, and doesn't even necessarily have to Caius the Oppression. He could even summon the Substitoad, sacrifice the Treeborn Frog, force the Oppression activation, still deal me the chip damage, and now I'm locked under my own Oppression. So there's just so much play here that he has and I have like nothing. So yeah, pretty tough game. I think we were just dead lost. I think even at this point, if I draw the Soul Release, it's too little too late. I've been hand raped twice. I haven't really had a chance to get anything going here, which sucks. And he's kind of had the perfect hand of proactive cards to approach the game. So even through my hand rip, he's had a higher density of proactive cards. Whereas my cards like Cyber Dragon is pretty reactive. Caius is pretty reactive. Like I haven't had a proactive threat like Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer to be able to approach attacking this game. And yeah, I just set 1 and pass. I think I set Torrential Tribute, top deck Torrential Tribute. So There's a little bit of a dream here, but he plays around Torrential pretty smart. He brings back Treeborn. I don't Torrential here because I want to get it on Chainlink 1. He bounces the Treeborn and passes, so now even if I draw Soul Release, it's not even good, which sucks. So, because his Treeborn is now returned to his hand, it's kind of a build your own Sinister Serpent situation. I'm looking at my hand. I've got Cyber Dragon. I've got, I think I just set Greffer because I want to bait him into a Monarch. So he brings out Treeborn here, second Treeborn. He bounces a Swap Frog first, once again playing around the Torrential. So already got his value out of that Swap Frog. Sacks targets Ryza, and then we Torrential 3 for 2, but at this point he's accumulated so many pluses with Treeborn and Swap. He could pitch summon Swap Frog right now and continue to attack us even this turn, so yeah, it's really unfortunate. Really, really unfortunate. That we haven't found like anything proactive or whatever. Normal summon Spirit Reaper, attack him, it connects, and obviously it hits the Treeborn Frog. So even my only hopes at a comeback, which was like maybe hitting his Caius there, hitting one of his Caiuses there, it's just over. I checked the top card of my deck, and yeah, give him fist bump, and that's gonna be the match. So Joe does take it down against me. A couple of hand rips, a little bit of a weaker hand on my part. Going second in game 3 is it's pretty brutal. I wish there was more sideboard cards in my sideboard for Frogs. I think if I had more sideboard cards in my deck, other than like Royal Oppression, like better sideboard cards, I should say, not more, then yeah, would have been much better. Obviously, would have been much better. So yeah, overall closing thoughts on the deck. I don't even know if I have it pulled up, the deck list pulled up. I think it was pretty good. I think the deck is pretty solid. I think it's good against like all the top decks. Like you can play pretty well into them. Obviously, I think the zombie version with Kambanwa has different unique strengths and has a little bit more resilience, especially against frogs, using Book of Life as a way to banish a Treeborn Frog or Revive King to negate like Dupe Block or whatever. Not Dupe Block, what is it? Like if they have a lone Dupe Frog, you can make a Revive King and run it over. There's a lot of strengths that the zombie cards bring to the deck. And I'm going to experiment with different versions of Teledad in the future. Like I said, I'm planning on doing a little bit of series on like Teleport Dark Armed as an engine in December. But until then, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And let me know what decks you guys want to see me play next. I'll see you in the next vid. Peace.